This is Stalker Clear Sky. We're here on PlayStation 5. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is part of the Stalker Trilogy of games. You can kind of grab them separately or together as a singular package if you'd like to. This is the second game of three, and it's typically the one that is kind of the least liked and the most buggiest of them. And you know what? I kind of agree. I like the concepts of this one, but I do find some of it kind of annoying to deal with. So, Stalker is a rather intriguing series where you are attempting to deal with some role-playing elements. You gotta survive and make sure you're not damaged, and you gotta scavenge resources and kind of make some choices in how you approach scenarios and settings and whatnot. It's kind of intriguing. So what are we getting here? It's a 4K resolution, 60 FPS, and you can limit the frame rate if you'd like to under the video settings, and there's a motion blur option as well. Now these are supposed to get like a proper upgrade for Series X later on this year, so the assumption is that we will see that sort of treatment also come for the PlayStation 5 side of things, as this is running with a bit of a backwards compatible type of angle. Now this one I did kind of notice that there's a little bit of a, you kind of like look side to side, it's a little odd, like it's not, I don't know quite how to describe it, but a little bit of an off feeling sometimes, like there's almost a bit of a, I don't know if I'd call it like a performance bump or something like that, but there is a little bit of a weirdness to it. Oh no, he's dead. Oh, that's terrible. So, yeah, this is the second entry in the series where you are kind of in the zone where there's crazy events and kind of like supernatural type happenings and these crazy interactive points, and it's an intriguing franchise. Like this one sort of takes the concepts of the first game, which is Crisis-like in regards to being sort of open but linear. And this one kind of expands them in a more open world type of style, with a bit of a faction quest system where you're kind of taking different outposts in order to expand your factions, I guess you would say, influence or at least control over areas, and then the further out you control, the more your units move forward, and you can kind of like lose positions, and it's honestly really interesting. But I think the execution in this one isn't fully perfect in that regard, as it can be a little annoying when certain things don't work, like for example, well, at least I guess on the Xbox side of things, where I was playing quite a fair bit of this, there's a point where it's kind of like, you know, you're defending this area and you have to wait there, and it's like, what's happening? But then you have to kill a leader of your own faction in order to get the guys to kind of trigger and go forward. And I know that sounds weird to kind of mention it from an Xbox perspective, but I looked into it, and that was an issue that was with the PC version back in the day, like literally word for word, where I got that fix where it's like, just kill one of the leaders, it'll just start randomly working. I was like, no way. And that was from like, I want to say a decade ago, that answer, and then I tried it, and I was like, oh no, that's still kind of the thing. So it is, like, I think it holds up pretty decently, like, you know, visually, I think it looks kind of nice, and it is, you know, for the most part, pretty smooth, and I like the vibe of it, I like the world, the setting, the flair, and, you know, what they've got going on here, but it is an element where this is a game of its time. They didn't, like, it's not fully remastered. Like, it looks visually pretty good, as if it maybe was along those lines, but you can definitely see that, like, you know, this is something of its era. And this one is kind of neat, too, from the open world perspective, because they do hide open and stuff a little bit more effectively here, especially with the density. And I like how this one is a lot tighter than the one that comes afterwards, the successor called Pripyat, because this one does actually have more going on. Like, in that one, it's kind of open and almost boring at times, because you're just not stumbling into things. Whereas this one, there's actually, like, stuff going on. But this game, and like the other ones, is, like, annoyingly difficult. So I do recommend playing on the easiest difficulty. And like I just showed moments ago, make sure you're saving often, because you will die a lot. You'll have troubles. And the aiming is a little, like, kind of aggressive, and it's like, it's mostly just literally based around kind of getting headshots. And I think some people are going to struggle with that quite a bit early on to get the headshots and everything going. Unless you really know what you're doing, you're kind of just going to sit there at times awkward and a little overwhelmed. So it is good to kind of get that basis going so that you are kind of playing it in the sense where it's kind of just like, you know what you're doing, otherwise it's going to be a little frustrating and harder to get into. Believe it or not, it took me like half an hour to do that, I think, on my stream the first time I went through it. Could be the magic of the PlayStation 5, or it could just be that I've gotten some practice and I'm getting better at stalking. It's really hard to say. So, you do have to manage, like I mentioned, your inventory and actually make sure that your guns are... Like, you gotta have ammo for things, and you gotta make sure that you're, like, not over your weight limit, otherwise your character is gonna have a hard time moving around. You have to be constantly saving, too, so that you don't lose your save progress, because it's annoying when you die and you have to redo areas. And there's some things where things just kind of don't work, and I think this is another one of those situations where it's not working properly, because there should actually be reinforcements coming here. Oh, so these guys, they should be coming here, but it looks like they're dealing with, like, mutants along the way, which is a bit of a pain. Because they're supposed to come and take over this zone so that it doesn't get, like, retaken by these foes, and yeah, it's a whole thing. Yeah, they should actually... They should be here already, which is kind of funny. Reinforce Clear Sky's presence at the swamps. Which I believe is where I am, if I'm not mistaken, because then I'm supposed to go to a church and then another area. Because there are the open world activities, but I guess I'll go back to base, because there's supposed to be a team of people that come here, and I'm supposed to be able to use them as a fast travel point in order to get back to the base. But they're not coming. So that's a bit of an issue. Oh, maybe they're approaching? This might be them on a Connect Island chain over here. Oh, so I am supposed to go over this way now. Is this actually sending me to the next direction? Capture the old church. Okay, so that is my next mission, is going to capture the church. Okay, so we'll go do that. That is the next one. Yeah, you do the church, and then there's like this depot place you gotta hold out on. It's a whole chain system of like doing this faction war type thing. So it actually like uses elements of the original game. Like you'll actually get to visit some like familiar locales as you continue to progress, and there's some new type areas and stuff. It's neat. Like it's definitely sort of on par with the one that came before it, but it is attempting to do some new stuff and open up the game a bit more. And then this faction system, which I honestly, again, the faction system in this is fascinating to me, that you are battling and taking terrain and kind of working forward. But I guess it didn't fully work for them because they didn't continue that in the later ones, right? Like, obviously, we didn't see this continue in the follow-up Pripyat, right? Because it was kind of like that, but not really any factional stuff. And there's supposed to be mod support, but I don't know how that's going to work on PlayStation, because there's a bit more of a restrictive elements to like mods. So we're going to keep an eye out for that. Same with the proper current gen update for this one for PS5. It's supposed to be coming out down the road, so we'll probably take a revisit of these at the time, depending on how well these things do, and see how everything is. So obviously there was a nuclear power plant issue at Chernobyl, and you are, you know, checking things out, dealing with cataclysms and all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's Stalker. It's a classic series from a long time ago. There's finally like a second one, a full second one coming, and this is just sort of preparing us, if that makes sense. Like, it's getting people ready and familiar with the world. I should have saved. And that's the whole goal of this trilogy package, is to just sort of familiarize people with the gameplay and the concepts. It reminds me a little bit of, like, I want to say Fallout 3 always, but sort of mixed with a bit of like Call of Duty 4 gunplay, but the gunplay is a little bit more cumbersome in that regards, and I think the gunplay... See, I kind of... I don't know if I love the gunplay in this entry of the series. Like, I think the gunplay is actually kind of best in the third one. As odd as that kind of sounds, but I think for like controller and stuff, it's actually not too bad. From like a personal perspective of like combat and stuff, like it's nice that it's actually ported over well to the degree that it has. I'm actually doing way better. I think it's because I've gone through this now a few times over, if that makes sense, because I've checked it out on Series X. I checked it out on Series S, now I'm on the PlayStation 5 taking a look at it, obviously. Whoa, you just got smoked. So I think I'm definitely getting a better understanding of this one. And it's like you're supposed to play a little bit more slower or tactical with certain like maneuvers and stuff like that. And yeah, that's kind of the idea in the gameplay of it, if you're not familiar with these games. Oh, come on. You're supposed to use cover and... Yeah, it is neat. You know, a little bit, if you're familiar with Metro Exodus, I think you could draw some similarities. Like, obviously, this is an older kind of series. Oh, wow, I've actually got backup this time.
Your reward will be waiting for you at the base.
That's hilarious. Alright, that's so funny, because, like, when I did this on the Xbox side of things, I never got backup here. And then they, like, retook the church, and I had to retake the church, and it happened, like, a few times over. I think that's the unreliability of the game systems, or maybe there's just like it just works a little more properly on the PlayStation. See, that's the thing, is like when you get an issue, that is an issue that someone had literally 10 years ago on the PC version, and you can see that replicated on Xbox, and then you go on PlayStation, it's like, well, it's not quite the same. You just kind of like, you do sit there and wonder and ponder at certain things, you kind of go, I don't know, and stuff like that, and yeah, that is kind of funny. It does have some weird, twisted stuff, too. Like, there is, You guys getting attacked? Oh, repel the rebel attack. There are elements of, like, survival. That's why I was kind of mentioning role-playing stuff. So, you do have to manage... you know, your health packs, your food, your resources. Good thing I made a save there. Good thing I made a save, you know what I'm saying? Because it can happen in like 2 seconds. You're all good, you're doing stuff, and then you just die. It's mostly just headshots, though. Yeah, I run around with the shotgun here, but a lot of the time it just doesn't even work out for me, right? Stamina is the bane of my existence in these games, so I will make that thoroughly noted. Is the stamina system in these games drives me crazy. I really don't like it. Like, it's working fine here, like you're seeing it fine here, but when you like actually kill a bunch of guys and you start gathering good stuff and ammo, you're just kind of like really unable to move. That's the biggest thing. It gets annoying because you're trying to have environmental maneuverability, right? And then it's just like, it is not allowing you to do that, and that drives me so crazy. And I died. I guess we'll have to pistol this one. And you can drink too, which is kind of funny. But I guess a lot of it really is for people, they love the interactive elements of like talking to various characters and getting like quests and side activities and things that they can kind of take part in. It's interesting because they're very different. Like, it's a very different game from what you might expect. Like, it is a bit more of a slow burn. You take your time more in it. You're just supposed to take in the atmosphere, and you know the world. It changes. It could be very. The variableness of the weather is kind of wild. Like, it can be really calm and peaceful and sunny, or it can end up being quite dark and moody and miserable. And I think that helps set up a lot of the mood of the world, is just kind of like the crazy things that can happen in it. Down you go. It is kind of wild. Like, as I said, I think this one to me is the weaker one of the bunch. And it's because of a lot of issues that I see when I kind of play it. But there are parts of it where I do appreciate elements of what they were kind of achieving and doing at the time is kind of neat. The faction progression thing, like if you could take the whole faction thing and kind of really make it work and really make it function on a larger scale, it's kind of a neat idea for you to battle and like take conquest of areas. Almost reminds me of like the old Battlefront games where it's like Galactic Conquest where you're taking regions and stuff. Obviously doing like planet space battles and stuff, but sort of in a bit of a shooter. It's really neat. So I could go back here and help these guys because they're attacking the fishing hamlet. These guys are going back to the old church, which these guys are holding. I also need to take this area and capture the northeastern farm. Because I should just create a save and wait a sec for these other enemies to come here. So that's the thing, is there's like this back and forth kind of battle as you take different regions, and to me that's really, really quite cool. And then there's a bit of a story to it. Is it just me, or is this like way more accurate than I remember the last time I was doing this? Usually the guns, maybe there was an update to the game, honestly. I'm not even kidding. I do not remember my accuracy or anything on this difficulty being remotely like this when I was playing it prior. Like, it's still difficult where you die pretty fast, but like, I remember getting annihilated and my gunshots were like nowhere near enemies and whatnot. Like, it was savagely ridiculous. And I feel like I'm just capping everybody off here on this like it's nothing. Like, are you kidding me right now? Because I know, I mean, I think I got better at the game, but I didn't think I got, like, this good at it, suddenly. Unless my practicing has really been paying off. Which I doubt. Or it's just my natural shooter talent. It very much could be. Really good at shooting stuff. Oh, the faction system's actually working on here too. Nice! Nice. This got any ammo? Nope. Shoddy it is. Shoddy it is. But, yeah, I think you can kind of have some fun playing this one. It's neat. For the most part, it seems pretty good on the PS5. Like, I'm kind of happy, proficient with it. It runs decently well. It offers an interesting world. Kind of a cool game. I would maybe also recommend taking a look at the other ones or just kind of grabbing the whole package. And I think you'll have like an okay time sort of sitting here working through them if it is something that intrigues you. Just, again, like I kind of mentioned, it is very much of its era, of its time. They haven't gone and like greatly retooled things other than making sure that we've got good kind of like console controls to a degree, is as good as it can be. It's still a little cumbersome and whatnot, but I mean, you know, it's just kind of how this game was really designed to at its time, right? You gotta... of its era, you know, yeah, as to say. Yeah, you can venture and see some cool anomalies, weird supernatural, creepy type things. There's supposed to be some horror elements to it. Either going to be something you really enjoy and get into, or something that might be a little bit too weird or too different for you. It's a lot harder of a thing to say in this one, because I like some of the concepts and the approach of it. I get that it's a bit more of like a niche type audience, but I do quite like that this exists as it does, because it is kind of cool to finally see these on consoles, as I didn't really expect that to ever be a thing. I almost want an alternate history where we got these like on consoles at the time, because it would have been fascinating to see sort of the cutbacks and stuff they would have had to do to make that work a long time ago, whereas this is basically essentially like a full versions of these Stalker games, right? I think that's really awesome to have available here to enjoy for the current time, right? So yeah, see you in Stalker.